Hi guys, and welcome back here to the DevRealm, and today we're gonna be carrying on our series. And if you guys remember, what we did in the last episode is that we have successfully created the loading of the widget. So if I have the widget open, as I get the item, things start to load and reload and things like this. So what I would like to do today is first let's hook up this close button, because that thing's been there for a long time and that's super easy to do. You see that we have the button that closes here, right? Just gonna delete this. Let me see if I can actually do this straight. So what I can do here, because I have the inventory widget reference, I can get the inventory ref, and then I can maybe call the API or toggle. Maybe I can call the toggle UI. Let's see if that will work. I think I feel pretty confident about this. Look at that. It kind of works, which is nice. That's it. That's all you guys have to do. This is what I mean about reusing the code, because right now we got to a point where, you know, we trigger this, it goes back right here, knows what it's trying to do, it sends the event where it has to, and then we don't have to touch anymore the controller, the components, everything start to work out of the box. That's what we're trying to achieve with this game, is that we are trying to make sure that everything it's reactive and reusable, and we don't have to worry about this stuff anymore. One last thing is that when I add items here, I just would like to make a little bit of a space. So I'm just gonna go back to my inventory list, and I'm just gonna add here, I think I can do padding, set padding or something. And the padding that I would like to do here, just gonna put right here, is I want to make, right, of course, make a margin. From the top, I would like to add maybe 5, from the bottom 5, just so we have a nice display of grid here. You see, just a little bit nice, the items. Because, for example, now if I go, I don't know, many items or something, I'm just gonna try to add as many items as I can, something like that, right? So I can go back here and grab all the items. As you see, it looks a little bit nice in the list. Now we can also display how many slots do we have available and how many slots that we have that we're missing, but we can make it a counter later on. I was thinking to create some kind of a, because this is going to be a reusable thing, I was thinking to create some list here or something that shows the stats of the inventory, but we can worry about that stuff later on. Right, so next thing we gotta do here is that we need now to create the context menu, right? And the context menu is the thing when you right click on the item. For example, we have here the list and we have the item, right? So what I would like to do here is that every time, let's say you click on the list itself, so I think on the border, I think we have something here called, let me just have a look, on mouse or mouse, enter mouse button down, right? And then what we can get here is the key, or is key or action. What is a key or input? Get input event from the widget. Now what I want to do, I'm just trying to do, because I want to make sure that if you right click on this, right, you see it does work, but we want to make sure that you have the list of items. So let me double check here, how do you do that? All right guys, so I was just looking for the right, I was just doing some research, and what I need to do here is this, call this is mouse button down. But anyway, what I mean here now is that every time I click on this, I want to make sure that we do something, right? We want to, but I have a problem. The problem that we have here is that this item slot is also in grid, right? In grid we have a different version of this, so we need to be, let's say, create a generic version of this item that we have to override or something to do with it. So probably what I'm gonna end up doing here is I'm gonna go with this list item for now, and then I'll refactor this logic after. But anyway, So what I would like to do here, is that I'm going to create a branch, right? And then every time you right click here, if the mouse button now is the right click, we want to do something, and otherwise we want to do something else. And here's going to be unhandled, and here you're going to add handled, right? So you just go to your list slot, and then you're going to override the on mouse button now, right? So now if I get the items here, nothing gonna happen because we have to set up now the structure. So what I would like to do here is that I would like to control each item if they have the option to use, to drop, to delete, or whatever I want to do this in the future. And here's where things get interesting, but we will need a couple of more information on this item here as well. So the first thing we need to do here is that every time we start the item right here, not on the grid but on the list, every time we need to pass our inventory reference. We need to pass this information here. We need to get the inventory widget. So I'm going to go back to the list item slot, right? And what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new variable, and I'm going to call that, and I'm just going to search for WBP base inventory, and then I'm going to make sure this is an object reference. All right, now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to make sure it's public, and we're going to mark this expose on small. I'm going to compile and save the information, and that's everything that we need for this part of the system right now. So now on the listed item, we need to right click and refresh the node, and we're going to ask to add this inventory widget. Actually, get inventory widget. So I'm just going to pass it right here. The reason why is because we want to spawn the context that already handles everything that we have to handle for our player, right? Otherwise, it will be, let's say, a little bit of a problem. But now that we have the stuff, everything's great. What you can do here is just, we're going to do a print, and we're going to make sure that this, it's working. We just want to make sure that that's working properly. Go back, right click, you see? Base inventory C, it's proper working and set up, which is great. Now we're gonna remove this. Now let's do the logic to add the data. So I'm gonna close all this stuff now. I don't need it, and we need to create the structure. We need to update a couple of things. So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna go back here to the master inventory. We are gonna go back to the variables, and we're gonna go back here to the st item. And in here, we have the item itself. We have the name, description, rarity, quantity, and icon. The next thing I would like to do here is I'm going to right click. I'm going to create a new thing here called, and this is going to be called context menu. And the context menu is going to be basically what you normally see in games like use, delete. So this is going to be our option called use. This is going to be another one called, let's say, drop. And then we have another one called, let's say, delete. And then you have, each item could have their own special thing. So that's fine for now. And now on the st item, I'm going to add a new variable called context menu. This is going to be e-context menu. Or context menu. Make sure this it's an array, and the default value of this for now, I'm just gonna add a couple of values. I'm gonna add drop and delete. I'm gonna add all of them, and unless you're told so, then you can actually change this. Now, if I close that data, what I'm gonna do here is I am gonna close my engine. Don't save right away. The reason why I'm doing this is because Unreal Engine has this really annoying bug with data tables that when you start to use things on data tables and you start to change structures, it just messes the whole array and it breaks the game. So I'm just gonna close this, and I'm gonna don't save the data. And then what happens is that I'm gonna reload the game, and then I'll resume the video. Alright guys, so I just reloaded my engine, and now what happened is that my structure here should have oh, not this one, sorry, the st item now should have the context menu. And now if you go back to the data tables and you open up the item, we have here the context menu. Now let's create the widget for the context menu. So the context menu for now is gonna be I'm not, because I don't have a proper UI for it yet, but I'm just gonna go back here to the widgets, and we have display item types, which is fine. We have the drag and drop operations. We got the fonts. To be honest, those fonts, I am gonna move this. Where is it? The widget here. I'm gonna move those fonts to the texture, I think. I know it doesn't have to do with textures and stuff, but it doesn't belong here. Now the scroll box, I don't think I'm using this. I was pretending to create like a dynamic scroll box, but I'm just gonna delete this one for now. Anyway, I'm just cleaning up the code as I go. Now we need to create the context menu. So we're gonna create a new folder, and we're gonna call this context menu. And now within the context menu, we're gonna create here a new widget, and we're gonna call this WBP context menu. And then we're gonna create, I'm gonna just copy and paste, and I'm gonna call this context menu button, because I would like to make a button first. And for now, for this tutorial, I'm just gonna make sure that we create a very basic layout, and then we're gonna change it after. So I'm gonna search for a button. I'm gonna add this button right here. This is gonna be just a button, and here we're gonna add the text, and then inside here we're gonna have the text. We're gonna search for the Cambria regular font, which is the one we've been using for now, which is great. Maybe what we can do is the desired on screen. There we go. Now I'm not gonna change the color yet. I'm just gonna leave everything as default. So we're just gonna put here the text, context text. Make sure it's a variable, because we do need to change this on the fly, and that's everything that we need for this for now. Now on the context menu, we're gonna add a list. So we're gonna search here for, I would say a border, and then within a border, we're gonna add a scroll box, and then within the scroll box will be the content. So in this case will be the button, you know, we're gonna add the button like that. So something like this. But we can actually delete it for now, or we can leave it now. And what we can try to do here is that maybe we can do design screen. That's it. We can add maybe a padding here of 10, so everything stays aligned on the center. We do need to add, let's say, the space here, but here we're gonna call the content, and make sure it's a variable, because we will need to select this. And I'm just gonna create this very basic UI for now. Nothing crazy here. Everything will be fine. So for this context menu here, we will need a couple of things. So the first thing we need here is that we need the inventory ref. And the inventory reference that we need is the WBP base inventory. That's the one we need. Make sure it's public and expose on spawn, because from here I can just get the inventory ref, all right, and then do all the stuff that I need to do with this. Now the next thing that we need to do here is that I need to get the item slot. So we're just gonna call it item slot. The reason why, it's because I know the slot ID and I know the item is inside. So then if I have to search for the index or stuff, I can use this to do it. Item slot, and also public and expose that on spawn, which is fine. Now the next thing that I want to do, I'm just going to delete this and delete that. So every time we load this item, we're going to get the item, we're going to break the stuff, we're going to get the item here. So we're going to break, and we're going to get the context menu, and we're going to do a for each loop, all right? And the for each loop that we're going to do here is that we're going to create a widget from the class, And now on the context menu right there, what we can actually do here is that we can basically pass the context menu item. So what we can do here is that we can create a new variable. No, sorry, not a new function. Nope, no. Delete a new variable, and we're gonna call this context item, and this is gonna be context menu. Make sure it's public, and you mark this expose on spawn. And then what you're gonna do here is that you're just gonna close that and close this. You're just gonna get this information. We are gonna get our text, and basically all you gotta do here is just set text. I'm just gonna apply right here that, and we're gonna get the string enum to string, and you're gonna plug this one right there. That's it. So all you gotta do, everything here is fine. Now one thing that I also would like to do here is that every time I click on the button, I need to trigger an action. So when I click here, I am just gonna basically create a new event called ev context click, right? I'm just rename this to lower capital, and here we need an input, which will be the context menu item, right? Context menu item. It doesn't matter how you call those variables, to be honest, as long as because they're very, it's one of the things that you're gonna use only once. And then we need to pass the context. Now what you do here is that it's just call that information. Now you can select the context, but in this case, we already pass in here, which is fine. So we got to do. Now we're gonna go back here to the context. We're gonna need to search for the context button, which we'll style maybe in the next lesson. So we're gonna add it right here. I'm gonna compile. And then what we're gonna do here, guys, is we're gonna create. We're gonna just call the context here, and we're gonna add as a child. This is going to be, of course, the child that we're trying to add here. And now the next thing that we want to do is that you want to bind event on context click. So every time the user clicks on it or interacts or does anything, we can actually use this information to do things. And then what we're going to do here is that we're going to create here a custom event called API context click. And then we can actually use the inventory ref to do the stuff, like to call the items, because at this point we have the slot reference. We have a lot of reference here. So we can just call this. So to string. So I'm just going to do the enum to string. Now, this everything that we need for the widget. Now we need a way to actually, when you get the item, right? So you go here, you need to right click and then spawn the item. So to do that, that's very easy as well. What we're gonna do here is that we are gonna open up our base inventory here, and no, that's wrong. Let's just open up the base inventory, and let's just do it right here. So what we're gonna do is that we are gonna go back to the inventory UI, right, which we have. And we have the logic that open and close the state. We're also going to create here 3 new items. So custom event, I'm going to call this API open context menu. And we're going to have another one, which will be called API, let's say close context menu. And then we're going to have another one, which could be, I think we just need an open and close, to be honest, because, well, let's start with this and then we see what happens. So we're going to create a widget from the class, and this is going to be the context menu. And now we need to search for the item in the inventory. So what happens is that, first of all, we have the inventory reference, which is going to be self, right? But we don't know what item this belongs to. So we need to put on the open context menu, because we know the items lot that we're trying to use the context. And now what we need to do here is that we just need to promote to a variable, and we are going to call this the context menu. Right, so we're going to call this context menu. And this is going to be inside their own category called context menu, because everything that is related to context menu, I would like to keep it together. Now, what we're going to do here is that of course, we need to add to the viewport. We may need to add a canvas on that context. I'm not sure how it's going to look, but for now, it should be fine. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a isValid node, right? So I'm going to get the context menu, and I'm going to search here for it's valid, because every time this is valid, I would like to delete or remove from the parent, because every time we click on a button, it's basically adding a new widget or something, so it doesn't matter, right? So what happened here is that every time I would like to call this close context menu, just in case I click on a new context, and then I would like to call this function here. So this I am gonna comment and say handle the item context menu, which is gonna be where you're gonna click to use, where you're gonna click to split, and where you're gonna click to do all sorts of things. Now, what we gotta do is that we're gonna go back here to the item display. No, sorry, to the Windows inventory, and then here we have the type. Then we have the list, and then we have the list item slot. So what we can actually do here is that on the graph itself, we need to call the information right here. So what we can do is that we can call the API open context menu, and we're gonna call it right here, right? And I want to do that. I just want to make sure that this is aligned properly. And now we can call the item slot right here. Now we can compile and save. Now let's see what's going to happen. So if I go and open up the items, I have a good feeling about this. It does open. As you can see, it's quite good, but it kind of fills up the whole screen and is not really doing what we want. So to handle that, there's a couple of things we have to do here first. So first, we are going to go back to the context menu, and we can wrap this with a size box, right? And the size box of this, we would say, I mean, ideally it needs to be dynamic, right? So let's start with the size first. Let's try maybe with 200 by 200, something very simple here. I'm gonna compile and then press, I'm gonna press play again and get the item, and so it's still coming out of the window. I'm not entirely sure why. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wrap this with a canvas, and my canvas, so I'm just gonna put desired on screen. So I'm gonna put 200 by 200, and the size of this I'm gonna put here on the middle, put 0, 0. So we can actually increase the size of that. So I'm just gonna replace with the child for now, border. So we can actually do that. So we can put, let's say 0, 0, and the size 200 by 200, alignment 0 0.5, 0.5 to 0.5. So now let's try. Let's see. I think I have a good feeling about this. Let's see how this is gonna look. You see, it doesn't look too bad. It doesn't look good either, but it doesn't look too bad. It looks quite cool. The problem is that it's adding every time on the middle, right? So I'm just gonna delete this information, and I would like to basically, when I add the information here, actually, let's get the launch. All right, guys. So what I'm trying to do here is that, so on the menu, on the base inventory here, we have the drag and drop and on drop, right? And we get the position of the widget, which gets the offset, and then there's all that, you know, that stuff that we're trying to do here. So what I would like to do here is that I would like to set the position on the location of where is my mouse, right? Where is the mouse of the user. So what we can try to do here is that we can try to use this logic to set the widget position. So for example, on the context menu here, we call the list. So we call that information, which it goes back right there. We add the widget, where we add to the viewport. But then what we can actually do here is that we can call the set widget position. So what we can do is that set widget position. Now, we're not sure which one is the position that we want. So I'm probably going to get the mouse position on the viewport. I'm going to add where's my mouse position. Let's see if that's going to work. Because I would like the context menu to be at least on top of the mouse or something. Aha, look at that. It looks quite cool, actually. It looks very nice. It does set where we want. Now, I want to make sure this is dynamic, right? This list here is always is a little bit dynamic. So what I can actually do here, I'm thinking to go back to my context menu. Let me just go back here to the list. Is that the one that we're looking for? No, that's the one here, the list itself. So I'm trying to make maybe size to content. Let's see if this is going to be a better approach or not. So let's see. We go back. It doesn't look too bad. So maybe we can make it so you always have those buttons. And also you can see when I press, it does handle the actions, which is really nice. So what I'm going to do here is that, oh yeah, one thing that I forgot to do here as well. Every time you click on the screen, we need to make sure we delete this. Just before we finish, I kind of forgot about this. So what we're going to do is that we're going to go back here and we're going to override on button down, right? So every time we click here, I'm just going to copy this logic here, because what I would like to do is that I just want to make sure that every time the user click around, so if the user click on anywhere on the screen here, we can maybe call the close context menu, and we call this data and we make sure everything is handled properly. Otherwise, you return and you say that wasn't being handled, right? Because it doesn't matter at this point. So, and this is going to be left click. So every time you left click, so let's see if this is going to work. So we're going to get that, open up, click, you see? So every time you do this is fine. That's fine, because we don't care about the drag and drop. Also, if you want to make sure that on drag, it disappear, all you got to do is that you go back to your drop here, and you just call that and you plug it here. And you do this kind of stuff. So every time, for example, you go here, get the item, open up, drop, you see it disappeared. It could be, it doesn't, it can be a viable option. And anyway, guys, that's everything I wanted to do for this tutorial. I know it got long. I normally don't like to do super long tutorials because it gets boring at some point or very heavy. But I feel like this context menu is going to be something very useful for us to get items, delete items, and do all sorts of things with the items. So I feel like this was a very important part of the lesson to do. So once again, thank you very much for watching. Let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking of the tutorial, and what you like to also see here, and let's carry on with the series.